His plan for my life don't need correction, nor does it need adjustment. You can't alter God's plan. We did a series of messages on that early on. You can't alter the plan. You can't move yourself where God has assigned you. His plan for my life, for your life, you don't have to correct God's plan or adjust it, but as humans, we have a tendency to do that, as if God doesn't know what's best for us. Life may not be as you like it. It may move too slow. You know, my biological clock is ticking. Where is Boaz? Too slow. It's going too slow. Maybe I need to move to another state. You know why? Here you go. You're trying to do what? You're trying to correct and adjust. You're not happy the way God put you. Life done got empty for you now because you're not getting what you want to have rather than focusing on where God has placed you. Are you listening to me here? You know, we began to try to correct and adjust God. Why? Because life is not working right. You know why we do that? Because we don't see the whole thing. We only see a fraction of his movement. See, when a storm comes, you see the rain and you see the winds blowing and you see the devastation of it, but you don't see what's going on behind that curtain. Are you listening to me? So we start reacting to the storm instead of taking what God has given us, get a boat or whatever it is and ride through the storm. Don't try to change the storm. Don't try to correct God and send the storm. You have to understand that's only a fraction of his movement. That's only a small part, and we're reacting to a fraction when God got the whole in mind. Are you listening to me? Korah, one of Korah's sons, wrote the Psalms, and he didn't understand why God would allow wicked to spread like a big bay tree. Everywhere he looked, evil was taken over. Then he said, you know what? I went to the house of God. I was focusing on what evil people were doing. I was focusing on what was going on that wasn't right. And it started bothering me. Then I went to God. But see, when I went to the house of God, God let the curtain back and say, I'm doing more than what you see. Are you listening to me? I'm causing more to happen than what you know I'm causing to happen. We don't understand the whole part. We are acting on pieces, fractions. Because life is not what we want it. Lottie, lottie, lottie. It's not what we like, so we try to correct and adjust. Let me correct God, if you will. We act as if we know the end from the beginning. We don't. God say, I know the end from the beginning. The prophet Habakkuk says this, be still and know that I'm God. Quit trying to adjust. Be still and know that I am God. Be what? Yeah, leave my plan alone. Leave my works alone. You be still and know that what? I'm God. Let meaning come from me. Not the way you see things, not the way you want things. Let meaning from life come from me. Not your success, not your fame, not your fortune. Let it come from me. The preacher experiences show us that he was disappointed at life. He said, I hated my work. The more I thought about what I had accomplished, and I said, I got to leave it. And most people leave inheritance to their children. The Bible said, wise father will leave inheritance to his children's children. To his what now? Yeah, they shouldn't have to bury you. Okay, I'm going to get a drink of water. You hear what I say? You should leave something. They ought to pass by that casket and say, thank you. They pass by and drop down and hoop and holler because they know what you went through. Whew. You don't know whether they're crying. So I'm so happy God took you out of here. You don't know. Solomon was disappointed. And we all have had someone or something at one time or another to disappoint us. Sometimes more than what we want. But God brings us to a time in life. Listen at the book talk to us. then we have to make a response to what God gives. You go to chapter 3 of Proverbs, and he began to list a series of opposites in time: a time to fear, a time to build, a time to plant, a time to uproot what is planted. We can go on and on and on. Now, we're very familiar with that first verse because it says there's a appointed time for everything, and there's a time for every event or purpose under heaven. You see that? There's a time for every what now? The word is delight under heaven. There's a time. So God brings us to these times in life, and he's not talking about the ideal world here. Solomon makes it very real to us. He's keeping it real. He's not talking about an ideal world, because an ideal world, you don't have killing. In an ideal world, you don't have war. In an ideal world, you don't have dying. So what is Solomon showing us? He's showing us here the real world, the world we live in, the world where we are right now. Not the world we're going to, but the world we're in now. The world we're going to is not here in this chapter. So what God does is he brings us to these times in life. Sometimes they're disappointing times. Sometimes they're confusing times. Sometimes there are times that we hate. Sometimes there are times that we're born and times that we die. We all reach these times in life. So why does God bring us to these times? And I don't believe this is an exhaustive list. It's just an idea to give us the different things that we have no control over in that time. God brings us to these times in life, but our responsibility is to do our best with whatever it is that we encounter, knowing that God has got the bigger picture in mind. Do your best in the storm. Do your best when war arises, because we will be held accountable for how we carried ourselves or responded to the time that God gave. And here's what he says in verse 115. He said, what is crooked cannot be straightened, and what is lacking cannot be counted. He goes on to tell us also that God, the straight and the crooked, are both from God. So let us look at this. Everything has its proper time, even if it's something that don't make sense to us. It's the time that God brought about. Are you listening to me? But we will never be able to get meaning out of these things, because when it's something we don't understand and something we don't like, we throw it on the devil. The devil is the default person here. You know, when it's a bad time, it's the devil. When it's a time we don't understand, I rebuke you, Satan. Let me tell you something. It was God who told Satan to go test Job. It was God who led Jesus into the wilderness. Are you listening to me? You don't understand these things. You don't understand the hand of God. He's trying to bring meaning. He's trying to educate us and equip us. And we fight and alter and try to control the hand of God. Solomon says something very important. And I want to make a statement before I read in the chapter. There's more to God than what we can know. You can't know it all. There's more to God than what we know. And what I just said, the crooked and the straight, are both the work of God. Turn me to chapter 7, verse 13. Are you with me? So if you want meaning in life, you have to connect with God. When you connect with God, you got to expect different times to come in your life. Not just the good times, that we receive only good from the hand of God. And we've been taught and taught and taught in church how to confess things out of your life and how to do this out of your life. Well, if you don't like it, why don't you just confess it out? By next Sunday, it ought to be gone. Either by March. We'll give you till March. I want you every day confess that thing out of your life. Hello? See, when you've been around long enough, you know it works and what don't work. That's why God allows us some to walk the face of the earth a little longer than others. He say the old man is strong, but the young man is strong. The old man knows the way. He got a little wisdom. He may not know how to use the computers and calculate things. He may not have a college degree. But I tell you what, he know how to get from one point to the next point. Listen to what he says in chapter 7. In chapter 7, what does Solomon say in verse 13? Consider the work of God, who is able to straighten what he has bent. In the day of prosperity, be happy. But in the day of adversity, he said, do what? Consider. He didn't say be sad. God has made the one, you read it for me, as well as the other, so that man will discover anything, will not discover anything that will be after him. God has designed this earth so until the only way we're going to find meaning is with him. There's certain things we'll never know and we'll never experience without God. That's the way he designed it. There's meaning where God is, and there's meaning, there's also life where God is. There's meaning and there's life. We can't explain the ways of God or why the world is the way it is. I can't explain that. We have to make choices despite the uncertainties we face. We still have to make choices. The best we can do is fear God, be mindful he's always in control. He's all, whatever time you're in, who's in control? God is in control. He's in control. If you're in war, God is in control. In the storm, he's what? Excuse me. In peace and love and hatred, whatever time it is, whatever meaning for that time comes from God. What God means to receive, what God means to give so he can receive glory, that comes from God. We cannot say it's not from God. The crooked and the straight, what does the scripture say? God has made the one as well as the other. You find yourself in that time. Solomon found himself in a time of prosperity. Solomon found himself in a time of good health. He found himself in a time of having more than enough, but he also didn't find meaning. He also didn't find the fullness of those times because he never considered God. In the New Testament, the early church faced situations that had no instructions in the Torah. So the Holy Spirit began to speak and guide the apostles and prophets to give God's mind on the matters that were at hand. This is what got Paul in so much trouble. God was speaking to him. Nobody else heard the words that Paul was getting, so he began to write. That's where the epistles come from. Situations that arose among God's people. And God had to give his mind on the matter because when things go wrong and life loses its spunk, I would say, it becomes a big question mark. Even in the midst of the wealth and prosperity we may have, listen to me, we have to know what the missing link is. And this is what Solomon had come to the conclusion of. Are you with me so far? Yeah. We don't know life the way we think we know life. You know, in that caption that I read to you that Mickey Mantle had spoken, and I said money, I also put God there. It's unbelievable how much you don't know about the God you've been serving for the majority of your life. Why can't he give meaning to me in times I don't understand? Why can't he give meaning to me? Why can't he? Job searched for meaning in the midst of his trouble, in the midst of his sickness, and as his flesh was falling off his body, he searched hard for meaning. For I hear Job says, could somebody show me where's the place of understanding? Show me where God is. I go forward and I look for him, and I go backwards and I can't find. I'm looking for God. When you know what he wanted? He wanted meaning to his situation. His friends tried to come and give him all kind of reasons why he was in that position. And you know, you got all kind of prophets now.